Jenny's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel as the winding forest road darkened. Gusts of autumn wind sent leaves skittering across the asphalt and branches, creaking ominously against the sides of her old sedan. She strained her eyes, peering into the dense woods for glimpses of wildlife crossing the road. A dull thump on the passenger door made Jenny jump. Just a fallen branch, she told herself, glancing at the clock. She had hours of lonely road ahead before reaching her boyfriend's cabin. Jenny turned up the heat to combat the creeping chill and switched on the high beams. Over the rumble of the engine, Jenny thought she heard subtle noises from the shadowy trees. A protesting groan of wood echoed from her right, then shuffling footsteps drifted from the rear. She caught a fleeting glimpse of hunched shapes, darting behind trunks, before being swallowed again by darkness. Jenny shook off the ominous feeling. Just squirrels and raccoons going about their nightly rituals. But when she looked back to the road, her breath caught. Faint wisps of condensation were fogging the inside of her windshield despite the blasting heat. She turned the vents to defrost, uneasy at the creeping isolation. Up ahead, a hulking silhouette lurched across the road, forcing Jenny to swerve. Adrenaline spiked through her as the car fishtailed on the rain-slicked pavement before screeching to a halt on the narrow shoulder. Gripping the wheel in white-knuckled terror, she gulped air until her pulse slowed. Just a stray moose, no doubt as startled as her. As Jenny shifted into drive, the engine sputtered and died. Darkness engulfed the car, the headlights flickering out. Jenny fumbled for her phone and flipped on the flashlight. Its harsh LED beam lit the dead gauges and clouding windshield. A check showed the tank full, battery charged. So why had everything just stopped? Jenny froze as a heavy scraping resonated from the car's roof. It sounded disturbingly like overgrown fingernails laboriously scratching the metal. The noise continued in a meandering path from back to front before silence reclaimed the night. Then came the tapping. A methodical rapping as if something was testing the roof's strength. Heart thudding, Jenny's wild gaze scoured the inky woods. Anything could be out there watching from the dark. She swept her thin light beam over the surroundings. No signs of wildlife, but the phone's battery was already draining fast. A shape darted through the diffused beam, freezing Jenny's breath. It disappeared behind a tree before she made out more than a hulking silhouette. A glimpse of pale, elongated fingers. Trick of the light. Just her overactive imagination. But her gut twisted at the unnatural speed it moved. The feeble light caught a glimpse of narrowed eyes reflecting back. They vanished as Jenny recoiled in terror. Adrenaline flooded her system as all her primal instincts screamed she was being hunted. She tried calling 911 but had no signal. Alone and trapped, she could only wait helplessly as the thing circled her car. A solid bang on the driver's window made Jenny cry out. She swiped her light to reveal only darkness outside. But the phone was no longer in her hand. Frantically, she swept the beam over the passenger seat where it had landed, heart lurching as the screen cracked from the impact. Heavy thuds shook the chassis as something hurled itself against the sides of the car. Talons audibly raked the metal, seeking purchase. Jenny recoiled in her seat as the assault moved methodically around the car before culminating in a focused crash against her door. The locking mechanism groaned in protest but held, for now. Panting raggedly, Jenny watched in horror as long pale fingers slid slowly down the window's condensation, leaving tracks in their wake. The taunt continued around every window as vapor billowed through vents. Jenny clawed at the glass, but the fog clung persistently to the inside. she was being toyed with. A piercing, inhuman shriek split the night. Crazed fear consumed Jenny as unseen beasts bellowed back and forth from the dark woods. This was no animal. Eyes wild, Jenny twisted in her seat at a chorus of guttural clicks and howls surrounding the car. Helpless prey. She screamed as her door was torn completely off its frame in a squeal of bending metal. Looming against the night sky was a towering, pale creature straight from nightmare. Jenny shrieked as it dragged its bulk into the car, writhing appendages enveloping her in engulfing darkness. Her shrill cries echoed briefly, before giving way to wet tearing and the grating of bone on bone. Soon, silence reclaimed the moonlit road. In the morning, a passing trucker spotted the mangled car off the shoulder, doors gaping wide. He called 911, but the responding deputy found only blood, claw marks, and a cracked phone. Another tragic accident in the shadowy depths of the forest. Later that night, travellers along that lonesome road might glimpse shapes lurking between the ancient trees, or hear faint screams on the wind. But by first light, the only remnants are scuffed earth and a lingering foul odour. Once in a while, the monsters venture out from the dark of the woods to feed,